back to Science HD, y'all. My name is Nolan, and this is
Rose.
And we are Science HD. A little bit short on Asher, but don't worry. He'll be back sometime. Today's bow tie is The Walking Dead. I don't know why. I just randomly chose it. I have a Walking Dead bow tie from when I was a teenager.
I don't know why I thought that was Daredevil.
It's because I was also fascinated with Daredevil when I was a teenager. Actually, around the same time. But yeah, I went to a comic con in Detroit when I was in high school or middle school, and yeah, I wore this to it. So, anyways, tangent. I was gonna say I was obsessed with Daredevil around the same time as when I was deep into The Walking Dead, because I met the actor in Daredevil around the same time when I was watching The Walking Dead while it was live on TV. So anyways, huge tangent. If you're new to this channel, that's what we do. We tangent, but we usually tangent about science and cool stuff about it, like the solar eclipse. So yeah, I had an idea of opening like this where we both just wear these since it's the day after the eclipse. But yeah, I totally forgot about that, and then I remembered, of course, right 2 minutes into the show. So
my favorite thing about these is that yesterday during the eclipse, I tried taking selfies with Nolan, and you just can't see. You can't. So in all of them, it's like the glasses are like sideways, and I'm like trying to peek underneath the selfies. It's fun.
Yeah, I didn't know she was taking pictures, and some of them are like me with my mouth half open, mouth breathing. But yeah. So before I get too deep into science, which is impossible, I'm gonna just shout out our merch. I'm not even gonna say much more. If you're interested, there's the link. store.streamelements.com/ScienceHDPod. Easy money if you're interested. Not in it for the profit, just if you're interested, because I know there might be some people out there eventually. But
I should buy a mug. Should drink it.
yeah,
Mugs on it.
yeah, that'd be cool. I know. I'm honestly probably gonna use the store more than other people are gonna use the store. I already have with this thing, but I also just wanted another crew neck, and also I was like, I don't want to wear a lab coat, so but I've said that every episode, I think. But anyways, if you know someone, or if you want to be on here, or if you know someone that would like to fight with us on here, send them that.
Fighting with him. I hate confrontation.
I think it would be fun to have Rose.
I hate debating.
Exactly. Rose hates confrontation, so I think it would be funny if she just had to watch me confront someone like that.
I'd be cringing in the corner.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it would be funny. But yeah, so there's the email. Or if you want to send us science posters to fill up this wall behind me, I want to fill this up before the season ends, just because I want to fill up the wall. It would look good in this room, but also science posters in this room would look cool.
I forgot that I have 2 giant science posters, but I'm pretty sure they're downstate at my house.
Yeah.
'Cause I have a couple of astronaut ones. Not a surprise, but
oh wait, yeah, no, I remember those.
I have the big news Time magazine one from the moon landing, and then I have another one that's what's it? Is it just holographic? What is it called? When the bookmarks you get as a book fair as a kid, and you move them and it moves. Is that holographic? Is that what they call it?
I think so.
Because now I think of holograms, which are not the same thing.
No, I think it is holographic.
Because I have a poster like that when it's a astronaut that moves when you move the poster.
Right. Well, anyways, email's right there, ScienceHDPodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to send us things, just email that. Hey, I'd like to send you a poster, and then I'll email you back, and we'll see if it's real or not. So yeah, that brings us to our first segment, which honestly, everyone who's watching out there, this might be a quicker episode than usual, just because our weeks fluctuate in busyness and with who can be on this podcast and who cannot be, and yada yada yada.
Also, like, school's coming to an end here soon, so, like, finals are coming, all the exams are getting thrown on you because your professors realize they have only done one or two.
Yeah.
So it's all coming to a wrap.
Which has everything to do with Rose, but doesn't really have much to do with me.
Well, I
I
mean,
just
and Asher, because...
Oh yeah, and Asher, yes. So yeah, everyone's busy, and I did do the math. I think this season's gonna run until like mid-June, unless I decide to do like 20 episodes. But our last season was like, I think 13 episodes long, including the final. And so I might do something similar. And yeah, but we're running on week 4 in a row. I wasn't expecting this to be in a row either, which is kind of cool. But yeah, anyways. Science. So I wanted to talk about the cool thing about science is it's kind of like the reason for a lot of things. And one of those things is like how things are made. So I can just straight up talk to some like people how things are made, and it's still science because there's science within how it was invented and how it is even constructed. One of the things that blow my mind the most on this earth are like, it just, maybe not the most, but it just blows my mind thinking about it because I don't know how it works, is a record or a vinyl record. But like, we all like take that for granted. We all just like look at it. We're like, all right, it's a vinyl. It's circular disc. You put a needle on it. It starts playing music.
Is it?
But think about it. Nowadays, you might be able to like really take that like, and you understand like, all right, I put a needle on here. It just plays the music because technology is amazing. All right, but this was made in like think about like the Great Gatsby book that you had to read as an American child if you're not in America.
Fun fact.
Wow. Well, a lot of high schools.
Watch the movie.
Oh yeah. Well, we had to read the book and the movie at the same time.
I skipped the English class in high school that was like where you read all those classic novels, and went and did like a dual enrollment college course that also didn't make me read the novels. So I skipped that part of high school.
Well, you know the era, the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
Where everyone's listening to a record.
Yeah.
And
I'll get those cool dresses.
Yeah, and so I'm like, wait, this is the Roaring 20s. Mm-hmm. How do they figure out, and how do they mass distribute, and like records? Like, I don't even know what's going on, like what's happening. Like, so I had a record for the first time like 2 years ago, and I was playing it, and then I started cleaning my room. Well, when I walk around my room, sometimes the record would skip or cut in and out, and I'm like, all right, this obviously is just like, it's almost a little inconvenient because it's like old technology that we are still like appreciating today, so we still make it, which honestly that's a humans are cool moment where it's like we're so far past this technology. I have my phone, I have a computer, I have a laptop, I have a tablet that can all play this music, much more convenient than a record. Yet they're still being produced. People are still making money off of producing records, just for the vintage feel. So, yeah. But anyways, Rose, what's your hypothesis on records?
I was so hoping you were going to ask me my hypothesis. I know that I've seen videos on this in the past, but I don't remember what it was. My hypothesis is that to us it just looks like you have like many grooves in the vinyl, but I'm betting that at a microscopic scale in those grooves there are like peaks and valleys that change the output of noise somehow. I'm not sure, but that's my hypothesis, is something like that.
And that's why I ask her, folks, because that's basically it. I mean, if we were keeping score here, you would get a point.
I just wonder, I don't know how, like, in terms of from vinyl to, what is it called? The, like, in the super old first models of vinyl record players, with like is it a sonogram? Something like the yes. the big
Phonogram.
metal thing.
Phonogram.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
But I don't know how, like, from needle to that does it get carried? Like how do
Oh,
the
wait,
how
are
do
you
the peaks
talking about,
how do the
like,
peaks and valleys become a
like
song?
a metal horn type thing?
Yeah, that thing.
Oh.
I mean, even if it's just speakers, how does peak and valley become song that I understand?
Yeah, so that's the part where so first of all, this reason why it blows my mind a lot is because I have to first understand how does a record, phonogram.
Phonograph is a
Phonogram? I think it's phonogram. Phonogram or phonogram?
That's what I thought it was. The word I picture in my, like, so my sister said once that when you say a word wrong, it just means that you've read it your entire life but have never heard anyone say it, and that's the moment I'm having right now where I'm like, I know I've read it. Tell me to pronounce it, and it might be wrong.
Yeah. Phonograph, not gram. Jeez. That's what I was reading. But anyways, thank you, Walmart, in our chat, which I laughed last week when I saw that you followed. Thank you for the follow, by the way. I laughed last week when I was like, oh, Walmart XOX followed us. But anyways, the reason why it blew my mind was because I had to think, all right, how does a needle read all of these things and transfer it to a speaker, whether that be a horn or like this, like,
or just a speaker?
Yeah, or just like an actual speaker like nowadays. And then you think, wait, well, how is the record made? Like, why is a physical object, why is a piece of like plastic basically able to hold information of music? Like, that's insane to think about.
I did just see a reverse of this where they made it wasn't a record, it was like the wax cylinders, where they played a recent like modern day song but recorded it onto one of the wax cylinders, and it was really interesting. It was like, I think it was like through this huge, like, super elongated, again, like horn thing, and I would assume it has something to do with like the sound waves that go through that changed the depth that it like scratches or something. Like some weird physics stuff is happening. This would be a great episode for Asher to be here right now.
I know. I kind of brought this up like with Asher in mind, but I thought of this idea like a week ago almost. So
yeah, okay, but yeah, so I'm wondering if it's gonna be something like that, like because it was wax cylinder first, and then it was the vinyl records. I'm pretty sure in the timeline. But yeah, so tell me, how does it work?
So I looked it up, as I do most things, and of course I made the title "Do It for the Vinyl" because do it for the vine. And just in case you don't know what records look like, records work by having sound wave patterns etched into grooves on their surface, and it needs a stylus or a needle that reads these patterns and converts them into electrical signals. So that like idea of how does it take grooves to music is by the grooves basically coming at like being a track for the needle. The needle is placed on a plane, and then the plane moves up and down based off these smallest little grooves, which I don't know how they do this in the 1920s.
I was gonna say, that's kind of crazy.
I know. I don't know how they do this in the 1920s. But the smallest little grooves are like just bumping it up and down, and those bumps are translated to vibrations, and those vibrations are translated using a transducer, which is part of some cartridge on the end of the needle, into electrical currents, and those electrical currents are then translated to a horn or a speaker, which is a lot of translations of information, from vibrations to electricity to music to our ears somehow.
Does that mean that the record has to be made out of a certain material in order for it to be transferred cleanly?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm gonna Google. I'm searching on the fly, but continue.
I also said more specifically that record used has tiny cuts and grooves the stylus falls into. The stylus follows along and vibrates into the cartridge, which is a transducer, which if I had word of the day, that'd be like a word of the day, transducer. And then basically that transducer is just like a translator. But another like example of a transducer in everyday life, this thing. It's taking my vibrations of my sound waves and receiving it and translating it into information that is now accessible to all of our lovely Twitch chatters on Twitch. So if you're on YouTube, we go live on Twitch. So far it's every Tuesday, but yeah.
I feel like this could like sound waves in general, what I'm getting at. You know, like when we talked about bees on like episode, I don't know, 4 or 3, I don't know, early episode season 1, we talked about bees and we realized it was like a whole can of worms because bees are kind of crazy. And that's what these sound waves feel like. Like, oh, microphones and electrical transfers and everything. Feels like a whole, almost like it would be a chapter in a physics book. Wow.
It probably is.
It definitely is. 100%, yes.
But yeah, this is a whole can of bees or worms. And right as I said that, right on cue. But yeah, so
I haven't found an answer
it's
on
kind
if
of
it can be made out of anything yet. I'm still kind of like glancing.
Yeah, this is the horn that we were talking about. Like whenever we said horn, it's just like something like this. But I don't know how they do this in the 1920s still. Other than this was the closest I can get. So how do they do this in the early 20th century, Rose?
How?
Well, the music gets recorded in a studio where the music gets channeled into a big reversed megaphone. So think of it like a horn like that.
Yeah.
And then the device that captures the vibrations through that reverse megaphone, it captures the vibrations and frequencies, which gets interpreted into notes and specific instruments. And it basically, I'm imagining it like a seismograph for earthquakes. Mm-hmm. And then that gets recorded, and then it gets pressed onto a polyvinyl chloride disc, which is how you get the name for vinyl in the first place, polyvinyl. It gets pressed onto it, and then that's how all those little etches are made, by the etches of whatever is recording. So I'm thinking, because seismographs feel like very old technology still, that we still use, mm-hmm. I have a feeling it's got to be some way of that being translated to a disc, and then they're just like, let's put a needle on it, and it's just genius work. Like, this is just work of a genius, like bridges.
I want to try to find the answer to, does it have to be a certain material? Hold on. It's fair to say that while all vinyl albums are records, not every record is a vinyl album. So they don't have to be this like a specific material. I wonder if it's like they should be in this realm of materials, like all related to vinyl, because if like, you know, like early in physics class, you might learn that like sound travels differently in different mediums or whatever, or like wood versus metal, like it'll probably travel differently. I'm assuming it has to do with that. So if you had like a metal record, I'm betting that it wouldn't sound anywhere near as clean or as like correct as a vinyl record. That's my guess. That's my hypothesis.
I was about to say hypothesis. Well, mine is that I think that it would need to be smooth, because if you made it out of rock, which is probably impossible to get that thin, or metal, it would make that like grindy, scrapey noise that makes my teeth uncomfortable. Yeah. Or just like, I don't know, not be as smooth as plastic. Wood wouldn't work for longevity.
I think it would be, I think wood's also too soft, if that makes sense. Like, it's not going to, like, I think it'll soak up more of the vibrations than a vinyl would, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, knocking on a tree, you're not going to hear that like you knock on a piece of metal. Like, it kind of, like, softens. It absorbs too much in order for it, like, sound to travel as much.
Yeah.
Like, again, that's my hypothesis. It's gonna get annoying.
That is good. But anyways, so I don't think it needs to be a specific material because I should have said this earlier when I was looking into this. Thomas Edison is responsible for vinyls basically just because he was experimenting with something and he made like a disc made out of aluminum foil, not like the entire thing, but he like wrapped a disc in aluminum foil and did something similar to this, and then someone else later came on along and developed vinyl records and stuff like that based off that idea. So that's why I was like earlier today, I was like, damn, Thomas Edison, like he's responsible for so many things. How are you responsible for vinyl records and the light bulb?
Is it? I can't remember if this is true or if it's the right person, but don't some people suspect, like, did he really invent the light bulb? Or, like, was it actually this other guy and he just happened to coin it a little faster, or, like, took the guy's idea and then finished it or something? You know, like, I think that there's something there, and I can't remember exactly what, and it might just be totally false lore.
I have no idea. I know there's some controversy with Thomas Edison, like that one episode of Bob's Burgers. Do you remember?
No.
It was about, like, Edison and... Or maybe it was Tesla. Electrocuting the elephant.
Nikola Tesla also has, like, lore about him. Like, he wasn't,
like controversy.
Yeah, well, not like against him. Like, we love Tesla, but I think that, like, someone tried to steal some idea from him, or like he wasn't giving credit for something. I'm not sure. Again, it's sad. That's one of those things I've always heard about and then just like never looked into. But yeah, there's something there too. This is a whole nother ScienceHD episode would be dedicated towards scientists.
Scientists.
and yeah,
HD.
and the lore. the lore. It's a Markiplier reference, I feel. Okay.
You know what?
This chair won't quit spinning, so I just keep like...
I just realized I had this stream muted, not from our voices, but from the music and the intro earlier, so...
Oh, so like they didn't hear a nice theme song?
Correct.
That's sad.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah. I don't remember where we were on that, but basically records are cool. I think it's ahead of its time. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's something that should be ahead of its time.
I feel that way about a lot of technology. Specifically, my thing that is like that was ahead of its time was the PSP player? Like basically like first, like before Nintendo Switches were cool, everyone had these and like
PSP.
Yeah, and then you had like your little CD that you'd put in the back to play like COD in it or whatever the heck I don't know what you did. I thought they were really cool, but those were so ahead of its time. Where did they go? Where did they go?
Everyone actually started, for some reason, I feel like humanity went in the wrong direction with that, and everyone just started buying actual PlayStations. Like, I remember when the PS4 came out, everyone bought a PS4, and now no one needs their PSP.
Come on. But, like, people would play those on the back of the bus. You know, I was always jealous of those people. Like, come on.
I was pricing them out in middle school, and as if I could afford one. Yeah. Like, I was like, okay, let's see how expensive they are. I really want one right now because that means I could play like MLB The Show, which is only available on PlayStation things, and I really love the Phillies, and I want to play baseball games.
Can I play Crash Bandicoot on that? I love Crash Bandicoot.
Probably.
Oh my god.
But now PSPs are obsolete.
That's so sad. I feel okay. PSPs are on the list, and then the like little earbuds that you'd wear for like Bluetooth conversations. Like
yeah.
Those were popular around the same time that like those flip phones were. Oh god.
What about those flip cameras? This is the same time period. You know those like flip cameras? Oh my gosh. I gotta look it up. Here, hold this. I gotta look it up on the...
When did they... Wait, read that question. I'm blind.
Well, then they did the PS Vita, but they didn't make it anywhere. I remember the PS Vita, but I never had it either, so...
It's sad. I think it's sad.
What was the thing I was gonna look
What's something else that's like been ahead of its time?
Oh yeah. Flip camera was not ahead of its time.
I don't know what you mean by flip camera.
Oh
like I'm picturing like camcorders with
video. Oh my gosh, how did I remember that? The company's name is Flip. I remembered that. That's insane.
They do look really familiar. Oh. Okay, you have to share it on the stream if you can.
Now that I have
The front, like the part that you would see if someone was taking a photo of you, didn't do it in my head, and I didn't see it. And now that I've seen the other side, 100% remember the same.
Now we're just like a real podcast.
Yeah, now we're just
That looks things up like that. Yeah, who remembers these? I don't know how we got here, but
we're here.
USBs are old as crap. I just realized that.
Yeah.
How did it take us that long to move to USB-C? Like, look, there's a USB that would work on my PC over here for this flip camera.
Why were these popular? Is it because of the USB popping out of it? Is that what made it a flip camera?
Yeah, and I think at the time, oh my gosh, look how expensive they are now. This only has
$600.
This only has 8 gigs. This only has 8 gigs and 2 hours of video recording, which would only record one episode of Science HD, and then 20 minutes, and then it's $632.66 because that's how old it is now.
That is crazy.
Meanwhile, it's so. What did you ask?
I don't remember.
Why is Bob so popular?
Oh, you know what's also, I think, kind of like old and
discontinued? It was made in 2006. That's why. Think
That's
about all
5
the
years
video
old.
cameras that were in 2006. It's all bulky things that were like this. You have to hold this whole thing right here, and you have to like flip it out on the side, and then you have to like keep your eye in the center so you know what you're looking at, and then this comes out, and now you can just hold it and you see a video.
My mom had one of the old camcorders, you know, where you have to hold it and like look through the eyepiece, and I had so much fun playing with those, which is kind of fun because then I'm 22 now, and like if you find those old videos on some old CD somewhere, like they're so fun to go back and watch. Okay.
Yeah. My mom never had those videos. She only did it to her oldest her oldest child, which is my oldest sister. And I was so mad when I got older because I was like, why do I not have I don't have a single video of me as a baby or as a toddler, by the way. Only of me as like a 9-year-old.
Yeah. For the longest time, I think my birthday present to me from my mom when I was like 15 was a baby photo album of me, because up until I was like 15, there were no baby photos of me because we had this old desktop computer that I don't know if it like just quit working or what, and so all my baby photos were on that computer. And so for my 15th birthday, I don't know if they took it into like a computer place and like had them like take the mem out and find the baby photos of me or what. But yeah, so my 15th birthday was like I got my baby photos because.
Which one was that? Was the one hanging off the bed? Like.
Oh, no. This is a whole album.
Oh, like actual baby, like infant.
Yeah, like actual baby. Because there was this whole like long running joke that I was adopted, right? And that like that's the reason why we didn't have baby photos of me. And so my mom sent the yeah, my dad said, "You thought you came from aliens." Sam convinced me I came from aliens. Sam is my older sister for anyone listening. But yeah, so that's why I thought that I was possibly from aliens. And so for my birthday, my mom gave me my photo album with all my baby photos in it, and then in the front was like not my birth certificate, but like something of the sort. I actually don't know what that was. Certificate of birth. That wasn't my birth certificate.
Well, I definitely don't know.
Yeah, but we got really sidetracked here.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here. We managed to go from records to Rose being an alien.
Yeah, this is usually how the science conversations go. It starts at something like totally normal like this, and then totally goes off track.
Well,
so, here we are.
And here we go to ice is cool, but tis. That's my pun that I had to think of because I feel like I should average one pun an episode. So ice is cool.
The vinyl is pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's another pun. Yeah, so I guess I'm averaging 2 for this one. Not averaging, I just have 2. But anyways, long story short, ice is cool, and I wanted to talk about it because I saw this video of Bill Nye the Science Guy many years ago, and that inspired me to do more evolutionary work, which inspired me to do more lab work, which inspired me to do clinical lab sciences this fall. So, and in that video, he talks about ice a lot. And I never realized this before watching that video, much like I didn't realize a lot of things, but how cool ice is, and I've never talked about it on here. So thought I want to get into it. I guess, Rose, before I go into it some more, what do you think is cool about ice other than it just being cold?
Well, I guess it's related to it being cold, but ice is really good at preserving things. And so I think it's really cool that they can like go to a glacier and like somehow that I'm really hoping you answer this during this segment. Is like how the heck they determine the age of things from ice or ice itself. I don't know. That's a big question mark. I don't know if you can look at ice and be like, this ice is billions of years old, because usually to do some kind of aging you need organic material in it. So what is it? Starts with a C.
Chemistry.
Carbon dating. Is that it? Not in ice world, but like in general world, like that's
yeah. I thought you meant ice world.
No, and generally it's carbon dating, and so I know there's a way to date things that's not carbon dating, but when I think of ice and its ability to preserve things, and then just like figuring out how old those things are, I'm just like carbon dating. But I'm like, but that you can't do that with ice because it's inorganic, right? I don't know. Tell me. If that's at all what the segment is about.
Wait, yeah. Ice is inorganic, isn't it?
Yeah, because in order to be organic, right, you need
carbon.
And ice is not. It's hydrogen and oxygen. So.
Yeah. Anyways, interesting thoughts. It is more interesting to hear your thoughts because I don't recall having many thoughts before I knew the answer. Mm-hmm. But I thought ice was cool because it is a little deeper than it looks. Like the idea of ice. There's a lot going on in ice that we can't see with our naked eye. There may be a lot going on in ice that we see every day, like our ice machines and during like snowfall. But I want to talk about glacial ice. And yes, I am reading off of my computer, but I wrote this all down, so it's still coming from me. I just wanted to.
I can't read the computer.
Yeah, no worries.
I gotta get my eyes checked again. We're getting close to that time.
I just don't want people coming at me thinking I'm like reading off a script, which I am technically, but it's not like a fake script. I just wrote it like an hour ago. But there are parts of this earth that have really old ice. So I am talking about ice age, not like ice age, but like ice's age. And then this ice gives us a step into providing us information about the past. Because ice holds information in it that we didn't, like, it's not obvious at first. Because you just look at ice and you'd be like, it's ice. It
kind of feels like, in Frozen 2 when it's like, water is memory. That's what it feels like to me.
Honestly, they might have gotten inspired by learning something like this.
It makes total sense because they go to a giant glacier and then they like find all of this history out through the glacier. So like in a really weird way, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I love things like this in science. Like, what are they saying? Like the light from the dinosaurs or whatever is still traveling out in the universe. So if we were to somehow send something past it and reflect it back, we could see.
Like the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Well, because light has speed limit. And things that we see are made up of light, right? And so light like people, like to be like really far away, light from us has to travel to XYZ over here. And so XYZ over here is still seeing light from billions and billions and billions of years ago, aka dinosaurs and stuff like that. So yeah, that's interesting. But it's like, so the death of a star, if we see a death of a star from here, like the star's actually already dead. We're just now seeing the death of the star because of the like light has a cosmic speed limit. So
Death Star is all I heard.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Anywho.
But anyways, ice. Our chatter Walmart is on track here because they said air pockets. When I was talking about aging ice, or when might have been when you were talking about aging ice. But anyways, before I get there, the oldest glacier in Antarctica is around 1 million years old. So ice does have an age. And then the Greenlands have their oldest glacier sitting at 100,000 years old.
That actually feels quite young.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in comparison to like, I don't know, like how old the Earth is.
There's been, 5 mass extinctions?
I thought, is it 5?
It's either 4 or 5.
I think it might
and
be
we're
4.
on our 5th or 6th right now. But yeah, there's a lot of mass extinctions, so I'm assuming takes a long time to form a glacier, and then it takes, I don't know when the last mass extinction was. I don't know how many years ago off the top of my head, but anyways,
it would be dinosaurs, right? Though, like my last mass extinction was dinosaurs.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But good question. I can look that up easily. It's
okay.
Ice Age. Might have been a mass extinction.
A mass extinction?
There might have been. I'm not sure.
Huh.
I used to know this, but not like super clearly, obviously. But anyways, ice is cool. Because they can hold pockets of air in them, really small, not like bubbles where you can not like baseball size bubbles or things like that, but like the tiniest little molecules of air from the atmosphere at the time that the snow fell down is trapped inside, as well as pollen and maybe volcanic ash or other things like that. And so it's really cool because it's almost like a time capsule. Basically is a time capsule of information from that time period packed down into snow, and that snow becomes ice by the little tines of snowflake being broken and molded together through them breaking causes like a little bit of heat, and then that melts them together and it makes a really clear ice that's really blue and pretty. And so there's people that study ice in like ice labs, because you kind of need a whole setup for this, because you don't want to just like melt it down and then look.
Oh, that is really interesting. People, like there's someone out there on this earth that is studying ice
in an ice
probably
lab
in a very cold lab.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. How do you get there in life? How do you cool. Humans are cool.
But yeah, so here's what it looks like to study in an ice lab. That's a ice core. Obviously it's a meter stick, so it's a meter stick long ice core, and that gray strip in the ice core is actually a layer of volcanic ash.
No way. That's cool. That's cool. I'm sorry. That was a moment.
No, I wanted to hear your awe. But yeah, so that layer is volcanic ash, and that's like, I don't know, it looks like a pretty thick layer, and it's pretty clear and pretty cool too. And so if you could see the volcanic ash, just imagine all the things you're not able to see with your naked eye hidden within that ice core. And another cool thing, it's not just like physical things. Well, I guess physical, but it's not just things that are like pollen and ash. It's also molecules that they can study. So there's actually a difference in molecules in some of those layers that you're seeing right there through the isotopes of oxygen within all the water molecules. So all these molecules in this ice core have something in common. They're all part of snow that fell on the ground and got packed into ice. And so what you can do is compare all the isotopes of oxygen to each other and then relay that to nowadays and study a phenomenon where if you have more isotopes, the temperature is, I think, higher or lower. One of the two. Basically, long story short, scientists were able to figure out the rough idea of the temperature of the Earth at the time the layer was created because of how much oxygen neutrons are on the molecules for each water molecule. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. No, it makes sense. I'm thinking about the temp thing for oxygen isotopes, because first I was like, I never thought about oxygen isotopes. I don't know.
Yeah, so not all water molecules are the same. Some of them have I forget the numbers, but it's either like 8, 9, or 10 or something like that neutrons on the oxygen molecule. And then there's a difference between all those. They all behave differently in the atmosphere depending on the temperature.
To be an isotope, does that mean that you're
all oxygen, but you're all different from each other because the neutrons.
Oh, neutrons. Okay, I was like, I don't think it's electrons, because if you're missing electrons, then like something else gets messed up.
Yeah,
like that would be like
negative.
and then you're looking for like covalent bonds or something.
Yeah. So isotopes, basically, I think of it like this: you're all oxygen, but your neutrons are different.
Okay.
And your neutrons don't change your makeup of your element. They just kind of change subtle things, I feel like.
What do neutrons contribute to on like a periodic table? Because elements are ranked by,
they contribute to your atomic mass, I'm pretty sure. Not your atomic number. An atomic number is your protons.
Okay.
That's how you get ranked on the periodic table.
Okay.
And I think atomic mass is your protons and your neutrons together. Could be wrong. It's been a while.
Because I'm thinking if you all are water.
You should know this too.
I know. Well, I only took Chem 111 and 112. Those are like the two, like, now I've completed all the freshman chemistry. And it's been a while. It's been, 3 years now? So, I'm impressed. I remember as much as I do.
But yeah, anyways, ice is cool in that regard. And the isotope thing was pretty cool too, because it's almost like forensic chemistry in that you're able to just go back and see like a difference in the molecules in the ice and determine the temperature and the environment. But basically, the whole moral of the story is that most of the time scientists see that the climate is relatively not changing super fast. It is pretty stable climate up until recent years because of humans and greenhouse gas emissions and all the stuff you've heard being blabbed around by like Greta Thunberg or Bill Nye or ScienceHD, but it's true and it's scientifically proven. Like, I don't know how else to put that. Just like solar eclipses are scientifically proven. And if that was not scientifically proven, how did they make these predictions of where the solar eclipse is going to be? And how was the solar eclipse on that path? And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I just saw a post that was like, the scientists predict a solar eclipse and like everyone believes them and goes and flocks to like the totality path. Scientists predict climate change, and we're all like, wrong. Well, not we all, but
Oh, so you were gonna say a similar thing?
What?
Just now?
Yeah. Yes.
That's funny.
Yes. Yeah.
That's funny. Because I felt like you were gonna say a similar thing when I mentioned the solar eclipse thing, and then you did like your little nod thing where you, I don't know. I can just read it. I think I've known you for a while, so. Yeah. But yeah, so that was cool.
Wait, so if you had to restate everything you just said, crash course, your people who are watching this are out drinking with their friends, and they're like, I wonder how they age ice. What's your crash course, like 3 sentences or less of what this topic just covered?
I don't remember the theme song.
Theme song?
Yeah, crash course theme song.
Oh.
Hi, my name's John Green, and I, or Hank Green in this case.
Well, yeah, okay.
It's science-based.
Is the,
John Green's like history and, I don't know.
Anywho.
Anyways, my name's Nolan, and welcome to Science HD Crash Course podcast. Today we're talking about ice and how we age it. Did you know we can age ice?
No.
Well, yes, we can. And here's a picture on our screen right now of how you can age ice. And so basically, layman's terms, layman's terms, we can age ice by analyzing it through chemistry processes. And
you can age ice by the air pockets found in it, which is actually just...
No.
What? What?
By looking at the molecules of the ice.
Air pockets.
No, there's a difference here.
Okay.
But basically, you can look at the isotopes of the oxygen within the molecules of the ice at different layers, and you can compare the ratios of those isotopes to each other to determine the rough temperature of the climate at the time. And you can determine the age by looking at how many layers, because there's annual layers in ice. So,
there we go. There we go.
I can't do that.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm terrible at thinking like that quick.
That wasn't bad. That was good.
Yeah, it's just a little confusing. But if I had graphics,
that's why I used the air pockets, because I'm like, okay, if I'm talking to people that didn't do any chemistry classes.
Well, the reason why I didn't say air pockets is because you're not taking the air pockets to
right.
Because the oxygen is on the water that they're looking at, is what I mean.
Okay. Well, it was a nice thought.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, next segment. More ice. That's what ice looks like. Don't know why I put that in there.
That's blue ice. Nice little.
Oh yes, that's why I put that one in there, is because that's like that pretty blue ice. Mm-hmm. That's just from, like, the reason why that doesn't look like the ice in your fridge is because the pressure. Like, I mean, think about it. If you were piled on by your cousins in a dog pile wrestling, I can't be the only one that's lived through that.
I have a picture of me and my cousins all like dogpiling on the floor, and I was like,
for some reason, if you have a lot of cousins, dogpiling is a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. Basically, if you're being dogpiled by your cousins, just imagine another layer of your cousins on top. You're just going to feel more and more pressure. Eventually, you're going to be smushed, right?
Yeah.
Like, completely flat. And you're not going to look the same either. So that's what happens to ice. Although it is not a human living body or a being, or it's not living, this is what happens. It's very similar to rocks, I feel like. So, yeah. So anyways, let's get this bread. I brought this up. I want to bring it up later because it's very interesting. It kind of went on a whole tangent when I made this. I was thinking, like, those restaurants that, it's not just one restaurant, it's a lot of restaurants actually, that hand out bread for free as a part of your meal. Before you even start ordering, they give you bread at your table and they walk away, and then they serve you, and then they just hand you more bread as soon as your basket's empty or as soon as your plate's empty, and they just bread. So I was like, of course, why? But I do work at one of these establishments that does this, and of course I understand the business side now, but I'm thinking, why is this so addictive? Because I bring it home every shift.
It makes me think of, like, the people, like, I swear this was almost like an internet trend where, like, people, like, especially women, were taking Olive Garden breadsticks and shoving them in their purse, to the point where, like, there were people getting banned from Olive Gardens because they had, like, 32 breadsticks in their purse. And that's what this reminds me of. Yeah.
And honestly, if they were vegetables, people wouldn't be doing it. Like, if you got handed a free plate of veggies every thing, I don't think people
would be. If it was
be
asparagus. I love asparagus.
But you wouldn't get a mass amount of people shoving asparagus in their purse, you know? And so
they're just haters.
And so I had this idea because when I was in college in biology class, I'm shutting some blinds. I remember them talking about the evolution of humans and how we crave more starch. Like our bodies just crave carbs and stuff like that, and why? And then I was thinking, I wonder if that's why we like bread so much from these places. And then I'm thinking, what's on this bread?
My hypothesis is this related to glucose.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I was gonna ask your hypothesis, but I think it's related to glucose. Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I wrote. So we humans love food and the whole idea of eating it, mainly because we need to survive, but also because of that voice in our head telling us what we are craving. At least for me, it's a voice. Maybe people just don't have
just vibes. Just going on vibes.
But a large population of us probably have been to a restaurant where they bring you food or bread and some sort of bread-like thing, whether it's breadsticks, what is it, Red Lobster, cheddar biscuits.
I've never been to a Red Lobster, so I don't know.
Oh, really?
I've never been.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, cheddar biscuits are at Red Lobster. Just basically dinner rolls with cinnamon butter at Texas Roadhouse and Logan's Roadhouse, I'm pretty sure. Or the bread at Logan's Roadhouse is cinnamon bread. I'm not sure. But anyways, it's like bread rolls. Some places just peanuts. And so all these places have like these free bread. And then A, you're wondering, how are they able to afford this? And then B, you're wondering, why is it so dang good? Like, it's good. Like, I work at one of these establishments, and I serve people bread all the time. And they're like, I'm like, need more bread? They're like, ooh, I better not, but okay, I'll do it. You know, I get that every time. And they're like, it's just so good. And then, it's like, it's addicting.
It's also related to, like, usually when you go into a restaurant, right? What are you? You're hungry. So give me some bread. And then I have glucose in the bread. So, like, it's more addicting because you're hungry and there's glucose in it. So your body's, like, naturally going to want more because you're hungry. And then it's glucose, sugar, addictive. So you want more of it.
Right.
That's
and
extension of my hypothesis.
But people know more food is on the way. Like, they submit their order, there's still dog in that bread.
Yeah.
And then they're still asking me for their third basket. People know food are on the way. So you just thinking, like, with a logic of, hey, they know more food's on the way. Why would they keep eating? If they know more food is coming, why would you keep eating? Because it's addictive.
Yeah.
And so I was like wanting to know, maybe there's an evolutionary history there. And I actually do think there is. There's a lot of my thought, and then there's not. This is more of me, like a hypothesis for me, this whole thing, rather than it being like proven scientific fact. So I want to put that there. But the human brain, its main source of energy, where it gets it from, is sugar. Like, the brain's like, if it had its own personality, it'd be like, sugar, 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 give me sugar. I love working on sugar. Mm-hmm. And a lot of sugar comes from the starch, or from starch, and that's because it has glucose in it, which is a type of sugar. For some reason, the body's just like, glucose is the best.
I think your brain, like you just said, your brain specifically is like needs glucose. Not even just want. I think it quite literally needs it. I mean, but then there comes the argument, right? Everything in moderation. There is a line that is too much glucose, which is, I think, where a lot of people fall.
Right, but your brain doesn't know that moderation exists,
right? And
so it's like, just give me as much glucose as you can right now. Until you feel sick. Like, a lot of people, I mean, I've done it. I've gone to a movie theater and I've done it almost every time when I was a kid, where I would be like, or my grandma would be like, all right, what candy you want? Twizzlers. And I'd eat an entire bag of Twizzlers. Now that I'm older, I'm like, holy crap, eating an entire bag of Twizzlers is really bad. And no wonder I had gut rot after the movies. But anyways, I was thinking of this more on a scientific level of, early humans, such as Neanderthals, were starting to crave more and more starch-heavy plants. And so they'd find, like, roots and stuff like that.
A potato is a root vegetable, so.
Right. And so they would find, like, roots and stuff and start eating that more. And maybe they'd find fruits as well, and like, their brain might react different like more dopamine when they eat that, so they might search for it more. But basically, I think it has something to do with that. And then the brains of our ancestors, not saying Neanderthals, but our early ancestors, because we are not, like, I think we split off from Neanderthals at some point, but we still were able to reproduce in Neanderthals, which is why a certain population is part Neanderthal. I don't know if you knew that.
Wait, certain population is part Neanderthal?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, because like we split off, but like some people are still more closer.
It's like
related
mules
to
and horses
Neanderthals.
and something. I don't know. It's not exactly the same, but
Gotta break out. What is it called? The tree, the biology tree. That you...
phylogeny.
Yeah.
But basically, what I'm trying to say is, our brains doubled in size between 2 million years ago and 700,000 years ago. Which, think about it, that oldest glacier in Antarctica is 1 million years old, and only 700,000 years ago is when our brain doubled. So you can understand the climate of in the middle of when our brains were doubling from ice. That's kind of cool. But anyways, what I'm trying to get at is, I think early humans were craving more starches because our brain was like, yes, keep it going. I can thrive off this. And eventually the whole population was acting like that, and their brain developed, and the population's brain grew and grew through generations and generations. Not just like one day someone ate a bunch of sugar and their brain blew up, but it's through the next generation multiple times. And what is that? 1.3 million years difference of generations, evolved a bigger brain and double the size.
Does bigger brain always necessarily mean like smarter?
I don't think so, because elephants have bigger brains than us, I'm pretty sure.
Because I know that.
Oh, dolphins,
like,
I think, also have bigger brains than us.
Really? I know that I've heard that like grooves in a
Maybe
brain
they don't
represent, like, I don't know, I guess more brain usage. I don't know. Brains are interesting. They're just interesting. But
Yeah, they are interesting, and they just look like a big clump of meat.
Yeah, I guess maybe it would be better to ask, like, is a bigger human brain in comparison to a smaller human brain equate to being in air quotes
That would
smarter?
be better, because everything's like, it's like heartbeat. Captain's heartbeat beats at in a much faster rate than ours.
Right, or hummingbird.
Yeah, where it's like so much faster, where if we had that, it'd be scary.
Does an elephant's heart need to beat
Slower? Yes. A whale's does like 3 per minute when it's diving.
Wild.
3 per minute.
Well, I guess that's crazy.
Yeah, when it's
probably has to
diving.
do something with like pressure and the ocean, and then like its overall quality, like large size. But you would think that, like, I don't know. That's a different segment for a different time, but
Yeah. But anyways, where was I?
bread. 1.3
Oh yeah, so think of it like this. The human instinct of eating may come from our ancestors finding, maybe not all of eating, but eating like starchy things.
Mm-hmm.
May come from our ancestors finding the starchy and carb-full plants whenever they could, because their bodies were craving that energy for consumption. Also, we may have that drive to eat food in times of plenty and want to load up for an approaching winter season where food is not plentiful. So like bears. They're like, oh, there's all this food right here. We're eating tonight, because when winter hits and I need to go in torpor, I'm not going to have any food for the whole winter. So I need to conserve that. So by eating it now, I can fatten up. And there might be some drive there. This is what I think. But of course, it might have been different back then as it is now, but it might not be entirely lost. Much similar to last week when I was talking about dogs, how they have a lot of instincts. They're also more recently involved than us, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yes, they are. Especially like modern day dogs are more recently evolved. So
I feel like that makes sense.
It would make sense why we have not as strong instincts as them, you know, because they're more recently evolved.
Interesting.
But wait, what did I say? Oh yeah, so when we're eating foods, all of these senses are being satisfied. And our brain really likes it. So what does our brain do? Gives us dopamine. It's like, good job. Here, take this. And we're like, you know, like that's how I picture it, you know? Like if there was a cartoon of like, good job,
Oh my God,
here's
it's
this.
important here, the Who, is it Agnes? Is that her name?
I have no idea. I haven't watched that.
Oh my god.
In a long time.
And it's like, in my world, everyone's a unicorn, and I don't know. And then she like disappears into the thing, going, ah. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, it's a meme. People make memes out of it all the time, but that part that makes it a meme, dopamine.
Dopamine. But anyways, what was I was making a connection.
Dopamine from.
Oh yeah, so I think I think that our brains might have evolved because they're like, this is a really good source of energy. Let me make sure the body knows this. And so dopamine. And now we have hella dopamine from eating stuff like that. But now I want to talk about the business side of things after I read this Twitch comment. If someone identifies as a unicorn, does science conflict with that?
Probably.
No, because that's a cultural, not issue, but that's a cultural thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with science. Someone thinking they're a unicorn has nothing to do with science.
Maybe from a psychological standpoint.
I guess if it's like they're going crazy and they think they're a unicorn, but if someone's like, no, I really want to just be a unicorn, I want all my cultural. I feel like that's a cultural thing. Yeah. But Liberty Twitcher, I did see that you followed a little bit ago, and I appreciate that follow. I never got to thank you for that because I don't have alerts on the channel because it looks better on YouTube for that. So from a science standpoint, says Liberty Twitcher, we can be something we really aren't? No, because that's not science standpoint. That's a cultural standpoint, like I was saying, or at least that's how I feel about it. And I bet that's how a lot of scientists feel about it too, because it's like gender and sex. Sex is science term. Gender is not. Simple as that. Male and female, science term. Man and woman, not a science term. In a science textbook, you will never see a fetus be called a boy or a man or a woman or a girl, because it's going to be a male or female, you know? And that's straight up how it is. And that's why there's a difference between everyone saying everyone's like, you don't say everyone's born a man or a woman. You say everyone might be born male or female at birth. And that's just because biologically that's what happens. But the word biologically is science, and that's all just science. Now, unicorns and stuff, that doesn't exist. So that immediately
takes it out of the science ballpark.
Yeah. Even if you said dog, I would say you're physically not a dog, but then that's the end of science. I mean, the rest is culture, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or social
science, question mark?
Yeah, which apparently there might be a social scientist eventually on the show, maybe. I don't want to say who, but... All right, another question from Liberty Twitcher. So, if a male wants to... Okay, now we're getting hot button issues.
The tough thing about hot button debates, and this is why I usually don't like to debate hot topic debates, is that you can't persuade people who are on either side of the fence. So you can only try to defend your own standpoint and persuade the people that are on the fence. So if you're already on one side, nothing anyone's going to say is going to change that side. Maybe that's I don't know, maybe like a loser mentality. I don't think of it like that. It's just hard to... I don't know. It's hard to persuade people to actually... So the goal shouldn't be to actually persuade someone on one side of the fence. I think the goal is to inform and to also, like, if you are trying to persuade anyone, I guess, it should be the people that are on the fence that haven't decided to decide, I guess. But also, why can't you just be on the fence? I don't know.
Well, also, Liberty Twitcher says, science has hot button issues. No. I wouldn't say hot button issues. What I'm saying is you're putting questions like, so if a male wants to compete in female sports, science would defend the man's right to do that. You're asking questions that have the word science in them, but they're not science questions.
It's more of a social...
It's a social question.
Yeah.
So I said a hot button issue not because it's a science hot button issue, but it's a hot button issue because it's a social or cultural hot button issue, at least in America. So that's why I say that. Not that science has hot button issues. The only issues in science that ever arise are when scientists might disagree on something, which I listen to professors all day where they're like, that's still, people are still debating this. There are debates all the times in science, but at the end of the day, there's some fundamental things that are objective truths, and that's proven through science, if that makes sense.
See, we're riding the line again right now. So it's
Is it a science issue whether a male has advantages over a female in some sports? No.
Science can defend the topic from a social standpoint, but it's not a science problem. It's not something it's not like you're not going to read in a textbook like what like culturally is read about this, because that's the thing. It's not like science will defend the points but not make
oh
the
my
argument
gosh
point right, you know?
I wore my socks yesterday. My socks said science doesn't care what you believe, and that's true, because science is just figuring things out, how things work. These glasses are going to fall. Oh my god, I'm a wizard. How did I know that? Oh, it's because it's science. We figured out gravity exists. We measure things and we measure how strong it is, and I know that these are going to fall. Now, if you want to get more in depth, I can drop it from a certain height. I can calculate how fast it just fell because I dropped it without throwing it, and I know how strong gravity is pulling it down. That's science. Don't remember where I was going with that. Other than I can test to see how fast a male runs over the average female, or not just a single male, but the average male over an average female. There might be differences there because there's different musculature in a male than there is a female. That's science. Now, whether you want to compete in sports is not science, because science isn't, all right, let's make up a game and put this male human against a female human. That's not like...
It could be an experiment.
That's an experiment, yes, but that's not like... I don't know. That's not like...
Well, so if a sports authority wants a scientist to explain whether a male has sports advantage, should the scientist refuse to answer factually? No, absolutely not. It's just like if you call someone to the stand during a court case, you know, like they can answer the case and the questions as they see fit that are factually correct. And then what happens? The jury decides, oh, using these facts and knowledge that we have, let's make a good decision. That's going to be the same case for men and women sports.
Yes, I like what Rose said. Like,
Please.
Rose is saying, like, you can lay out the facts and just the facts, not trying to persuade anyone. You can lay down what is true about things, like how Rose might bench more than me right now, or how I might run faster than Rose. This is objectively true. Two things, objectively true. Yes, she can. She's a beast. These are objectively true things, but it might be up to debate for all of mankind to think I can't bench more than her, you know? But that's not science. That's just how people are thinking, and that's the social part. And then you said, but if the facts conflict with what someone wants to believe, then shouldn't the facts be ignored? No, because science doesn't care what you believe. If it's scientifically proven, or I don't like the word proven. I like the word if it's scientifically supported. Because in science, you don't really say, oh, this is 100% true. You just say the evidence supports this claim. Mm-hmm. That's how you go about things in science. I like science for that, because it's not like this is a hard stuck rule. This is what most evidence supports, and this is how it should work because most evidence supports that, until something comes along and consistently proves it wrong.
I want to read this next. So it seems wrong that scientists would expose facts that make people feel bad about what they want to believe. I wouldn't say that they're exposing facts to make you feel bad for what you believe. I think expose might be the wrong word. But or maybe it's fine too. I don't know. Because if I just go, hey, here are all these experiments that showed this thing, and it just conflicts with what you believe in, then you can choose to ignore it. Science won't, but you can choose to ignore it.
Right.
And that's just, again, just kind of up to, like the example we used before, it's up to the jury to decide what you want to do with the knowledge in front of you. But yeah, so I mean, it kind of, I think this whole conversation is coming down right to the point that science exists. Science shows you knowledge. Science shows you factual information or experiments that us like not maybe prove facts. And then you as a human, the interpreter, the reader, all of the nouns that fit this, can decide what you want to do with that information. So, and even in the earlier comments when it was like, can a scientist decide whether they want to defend X, Y, Z? Again, that's where it kind of crosses over from the role as a scientist to a role as a human. You know, it's just
facts are often uncomfortable, and some people don't want to accept them, but it doesn't mean it's not true. And like, I'll say that again, just because you don't want it to be true doesn't mean it's not true. And I feel like that's how the past like 5 years has like reformed my brain, which is why I for the better, by the way, not for like I haven't been deteriorating. Just as I learn more, I'm able to change like how I view everything in the world, and it's not brainwash. It's just me coming to conclusions by evidence that has been supported by groups of people that have dedicated their lives to these things. Whether it's like Isaac Newton from many years ago or my professor who's currently doing that now. Are there any facts that I've chosen to ignore? Yes. Nutritional facts on the back of Skittles and the bread they hand it to me at restaurants. I've chosen to ignore these facts because I don't want to look at them. Are there facts about the world I've chosen to ignore? Yes. Like that the sun's going to die one day, and I don't want that to happen. So I've chosen to ignore that. Doesn't mean it's not true, right? It's just I don't want that to happen. So I've chosen to ignore it. There's another fact I choose to ignore. We're all going to die.
Yeah, that one makes me panic. I like to ignore that one.
That one gives me anxiety. Although, do I want to be immortal? Not really either. So so it gets deep there, but there's not like it's not like I don't believe in gravity, and it's not like I believe there's a flat earth or anything. So, which by the way, Liberty Twitcher, you seem like you have a lot of questions. So for the future, if you ever want to talk or voice chat, I'd love to have you on the show just to ask questions. You don't have to be certified in anything. You just have to be curious. But I am going to continue on this segment so we don't extend too long. But you have been... This was a great convo. This is a great tangent. Like, not all tangents are bad, dude. That could be another Science HD sticker. Not all tangents are bad. But anyways, I don't even know where I started on Let's Get This Bread. So I'm just going to throw up a piece and hope someone gets hungry. Who's getting hungry out there in chat? Let's go. So yeah, bread. Oh yeah, I want to talk about the business side of bread. So this isn't the science side of bread. This is the business side. So here's why I think there's no water in there. So here's why restaurants give you this bread. Just in case you haven't thought about it, or just in case you forgot. Not scientists. Restaurants give you this free. So you sit down, give you this free bread, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna eat that whole thing, and then you're eating it, and now what? You kind of start to feel a little full, right? And you're like, I can keep going. Give me another basket, please, because this is good. It's addictive. My brain's like, eat more of this. This is some good-ish. Hey, let's get some butter too, because that's even more of a concentrated good thing. And then you start eating it, and you're like, and then it starts to secretly fill you up, and then your food comes. and you take 2 bites of it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get a box. So then you get a box for the rest of it, and now you're full. You have a lot of carbs. What do you do when you have a lot of carbs? You get tired. You want to take a nap. You probably want to go home and sleep. But wait, that whole experience was 45 minutes long. 45 minutes for a table is nothing. So then the table's flipped within 5. And then within less than an hour, we're able to get a new table in the restaurant and sell however many dollars worth of food. And that's just one table. You know, if you had 0 product cost and I was able to just sell you $65 worth of food in less than an hour, you'd be making $65 an hour, and that's a lot of money. Now times that by 60 tables in a restaurant, that's a lot of money. And that's why tables or restaurants want to fill you up with bread. That's Red Lobster, by the way. Olive Garden, Texas Roadhouse.
Do you know your chain restaurant?
But they want to fill you up with bread. It's not like a huge scheme. It's because everyone wins. Like, it's a harmless scheme, if it's a scheme at all, because everyone wins. You go in there, you eat delicious food you enjoy, and you leave with your belly full, and you actually feel like it's a better bang for your buck because you're eating this stuff that costs basically nothing to a restaurant, and you didn't have to make it yourself. Like, I find it to be a win-win. I don't find it to be like a scam or anything, but it does make business sense why they feed you this, because they don't want you to stay in the restaurant all day, because then you're taking up their real estate of selling more food. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so let me catch up on Liberty Twitchers chats. Yeah, I agree with you, Liberty Twitcher. I love cereal. So here's the next segment, which I named Firewall? Nah, Lava Lamp Encryption Wall.
It actually has a name that I already blanked on. So we were a little scared we were going to have to cancel ScienceHD tonight because we both were kind of getting stuff together on the fly. And I wanted to pick something that I'm kind of familiar with. And so I was doing a lot of like quick Google searches on the fly. And so I kind of want this to be more of a conversation that we can like, again, like I can like pull up my phone and be like, oh, what was that? Because I didn't have like a full day to look at this. But I think this is pretty interesting. So I was telling Nolan earlier about how each of my apps that I use and like end up doom scrolling on, all the algorithms for them are different, and all think that I'm this like totally different human on each app. And one of them, they love to throw computer science stuff at me. Every like memes, teach me how to code something. I don't know. It's I think it's Instagram. All my Instagram reels are all computer science stuff. And so I stumbled upon this video that was like, this just might look like a cool art project, but it's actually keeping your data safe. And I was like, what? And so what this essentially, is there a picture of it? You can put the picture on.
Yes.
So this is the thing that kind of looks like an art project, right? What is actually happening here is that there is a camera taking a photo of these lava lamps, and probably in some certain kind of like time increment. And then it looks at the lava lamps, and somehow I think it's by like the lava within the lamp. I don't know if it's counting like the bubbles in it. It's creating an encryption key. So think of like this long text of like just random numbers and letters that's coming from these lava lamps. And then they use that key to encrypt your data. So, and like it's completely random. And so the reason they use lava lamps is because supposedly lava lamps can never make the same shape twice, which I feel like I've like stared at a lava lamp long enough, and I feel like it's just like the same bubble going up and down. And so I'm a little baffled. But it's really interesting. So they use lava lamps, and they use about 100 of them to do this. And so what I also think is really interesting is that they encourage people to come and like touch the lava lamps and check them out, because it just improves the randomness of the string that the camera is going to create that's encrypting your data. And so this is a company called Cloudflare.
Yeah, which I think I actually used them to test our internet speed.
Yeah. So they're a, oh God, reverse proxy cloud provider. And so what that means essentially is just that they're like the middleman. They're the middleman that's, putting up this encryption wall and keeping the data safe. I think like Walmart uses them. Like big corporations that have a lot of users with data use Cloudflare. I still don't know if it's Cloudflare or Cloudflare. I'm forgetting. But yeah, so what do you think? Lava lamp encryption wall, randomness.
It's very smart in like incorporating a physical object in changing a number. It's almost like those double authentication apps where they give every 15 seconds they give you a new random number that you have to use as your one-time passcode to get into your Google account or any other account. But this is like a physical way of doing that. I think that's how you explain it.
Yeah, so what this comes down to is that think of like a low stakes game. There was a couple of like intro computer science students working on a project recently where it was like, okay, you're going to tell the computer that you want a 20-sided die, and the computer's going to roll the die and give you a random number, or like roll the die, and you can be like, I give you 6 d20s, and the computer's going to spit out random values from the die. And so you have to code it all or whatever. And so with a low stakes game or program like that, you can just use some import file that has a pseudo random number generator kind of. But the thing about computers is that the pseudo random is called pseudo random for a reason. Computers are incapable of making a 100% truly random number, because what does it all come down to? 0 and 1s logic, So when things like this company want to get a real genuine random, or as random as they can get it, value, you have to incorporate some kind of nature into it. But then this comes down to a whole other almost like philosophical talk, I feel like, where like if I got 100 lava lamps or like 400 lava lamps and I divvied them up in groups of 100, so I have 4 groups of 100 lava lamps, and then I watched the pattern enough, is there a detectable pattern if I was smart enough to see it? And so that's what I start to think about. And like I was watching some videos where it's like, is anything truly random? And so that's, I don't know, I think it's interesting, because the whole point of this, right, is to keep like hackers out from the system. It's like, is it possible for a hacker to like, I don't know, decide that nature isn't random? I feel like that's a whole debate. Is nature actually random? Or is it detectable patterns?
What is random?
That's a good question. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I was gonna go in a little bit on like how encryption works, I guess, but it's like public key, private key. You use the public key is like how you decide to decipher the private key. It's a whole thing, and I feel like I could have had like better like graphics for it, and so I kind of want to save that for like another chat where I can dive into more of like computer science talk. But I just wanted this to be like, hey, they use lava lamps for encryption because they're totally random. If you learn something today, you know that somewhere out in this world, I think it's Los Angeles or San Francisco. I think it's San Francisco. There's a company using lava lamps to encrypt your data. If you happen to have an account with one of the big corporations that has your data in it, like Walmart. So yeah.
Dang. Well, that's lava lamping. My closing remarks is, while I was reading an article on the bread, I read that there's someone out there that claimed that if you eat enough refined carbs all at once, your brain receives those as if you took a hit of cocaine. If you ate a bunch of refined carbs at once? I don't know. The way they said it made it sound like it wasn't a bunch, but if sugar might give you the same effect as cocaine from the article. So I challenge everyone out there on thinking about that. And until then, to challenge everyone out there for what? Thinking about why that happens. Oops, sorry. So yeah, I just thought, I don't know, I thought that was interesting. Not to detour from your lava lamp. I was just gonna use that as a segue to do our outro, but now I'm just, I don't know. But anyways, why? Yeah, lava lamps.
Lava lamps? More random. I don't know.
Random bread, lava lamp, random bread. Until then,
Hypothesis.
what's your hypothesis?
Science.